Hi and welcome to the Creative Treehouse. My name is Robin Broom and I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States. Thanks so much for joining me in the Treehouse today. I have another fun project. I particularly am fond of vintage type cards and this one fits the bill nicely. I was so excited in making this. I'm going to walk you through the steps, and almost all the components of this come from a stamp set it is in the new annual catalog, the 22-23 catalog, and it is called maybe Ranunculus Romance. I don't have those flowers. That was new to me when I saw this, but they're pretty flowers, and this is an awesome set, and we're going to be using almost all of the stamps in this. We'll only be using one of the sentiments, and we will not be using that flower, but all these others we'll be using to make this card. So let me give you all of the dimensions that you need for the cards. First off, you'll need your card base, which is a piece of early espresso, and it is of course 8.5 by 5.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4 to make your A2 card. All right, and then you will need a piece of crumb cake, and the crumb cake is cut at 5 1/4 by 4, and all of these dimensions will be on my blog, CreativeTreehouse.blog. And then you'll need some vanilla, very vanilla pieces, and those will be, you're going to have 3 of those. One of them I've already cut out, so you will need, this one is 2 by 3, and this one is 2.5 by 3.5, and this one started out as 2 by 3 1/4, all in the very vanilla. So we'll use those, and you'll also need a piece of very vanilla for the inside that measures 5 by 3 3/4, and you'll also need a piece of soft suede that measures 4 by 5 1/4 for the inside. All right, you'll also need designer series paper that is called, I think it's Layering Designs, and you'll need 2 pieces of that, and they have kind of like a newspaper print on there, kind of neat. And I cut one at 3 3/4 by 1 1/2, and this one is 3 1/2 by 1 1/4. Those dimensions you could certainly change up just a little bit, as you'll see in a little while. And I used some watercolor pencils. I used 2 of those. Let me grab those and show you. I used just to color the flower. And to color the flower, I used the rich razzleberry and old olive, and possibly a touch of granny apple green, and just a touch of the gorgeous grape. And used a blending pen just a tiny bit, ever so tiny. And then your sentiment, I used a piece of the Blushing Bride, and that is cut at 1 1/4 by 3/8, and the mat behind it is a soft suede, and it is cut at 1 1/2 by just a half. And like I said, these dimensions will all be on my blog to reference. And the embossing folder that we're use is the what's it called? The Time Worn Type 3D, which is just perfect, I think, for this type of card, the vintage type. And so I think that's all the bits and pieces that we need, other than some dimensionals and liquid glue. So I think that we can get started. So let me pull out a piece of scratch paper, and let me show you what I did on the crumb cake. So we had our dimensions and for the front, and I used this stamp. Let me show you the stamp real quick. I used this stamp, and I stamped it with early espresso ink. So we got the early espresso. So stamp it first, and then after that's stamped and looks like that, then you're going to run it through your embossing folder. And when you do, it will look like this. Let's see if you can kind of see all if the light catches all the textures and stuff. Okay, But we're also going to make that pop out just a little bit more. So we need a blending brush and probably also a sponge dauber. And we're going to use our soft suede ink. Okay, and we're just going to rough it up a little bit, make it look a little more antiqued. Okay, and so it's always good, especially with those darker colors, to go off just a little bit of your paper before, otherwise you'll end up with a great big blob, and you probably don't want that. And then I'm going to just kind of lightly touch, just real lightly, to see if I can make some of those letters come up and show. And a lot of this will be covered up with our, I like to think of it as sort of memorabilia that we're putting on here, almost like it's a scrapbook page or something that you'd find on your bulletin board, or something from a trip. Or so let's see if we've got that. I think that's okay. I think I probably made the original a touch darker, so let's go over it just a wee bit more. And try not to make it even in spots, because the aging it's not even. You probably realize that as far as people are concerned too. People don't age evenly. Certain things, certain parts sag, certain parts bulge. But okay, so that looks a little better. I think that's get a little bit more. All right, and I think I'm gonna actually make sure I've got some on the edges, and so I'm gonna take the sponge dauber and just go across the edges a little more. By doing this, I am eating up my sponge dauber. I need to get a new one. But it's worth the look. Okay, yeah, there's pieces of my sponge. Okay, so that is that part. And then now let's work on the two little memorabilia pieces that are on the very vanilla. Okay, and let's slip this over there as a reference. Okay, so on the smaller piece I did, and you can do whatever you want, but I chose to do it looks like maybe it's from a ledger or whatever. It looks like it says silver plate jewelry, and then I don't know, it looks really cool. All right, so I used the soft suede for that, and I stamped it. See if I can remember if it stamps crooked or not. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay, and then I'm going to stamp it over here as well on the other piece. All right, and then I'm going to trade in ink. I'm going to go to Early Espresso to get a little bit of a contrast, and I'm going to use the Eiffel Tower. Looks like almost like a cancel stamp, and I'm going to put the Eiffel Tower here. Okay, and it's just a little bit darker. All right, and then the same thing with this, and it looks like, I'm really not sure, but I'm going to just make it go sideways, like also kind of like a cancel stamp type thing. All right, and let me show you the difference, because you're looking at this and you're looking at this, and what do you see the difference is? Quite a bit, huh? All right, let's see. I'll let you know how I managed to make it look aged. All right, let me open up my soft suede again. But the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tear it, and to make a pretty good tear, I'm going to give it a crease, not very far into it. Just give it a little bit of a tiny bit of a crease, and that'll just help it tear. And then you're going to want to always tear it where the front side is showing, otherwise it'll tear the wrong direction, and your layering that you want will be in the back. And you want your layered look to be in the front. Okay, and on this one I'm gonna, actually I did it differently than I did on the other one. That's okay. I'm gonna do this edge as well. Okay. And certain papers tear easier than others. This one tears fairly easily. So I'm going to do this side, and I'm going to do this other side. For some reason I decided that on this one I did the edges, the side edges, and on the other one I did the front edges. So, all right, so I got that one torn, and let me see if I can tear this one quickly. This one needs to be the top and the bottom. And then we're going to use our blending brush and our daubers as well. Oh, that one tore much better, much more quickly. Okay, and you could take I have one over here somewhere, a straight rule, and do it as well. But it works. The tearing works better when it's more of a freehand tear. There we go. Let's tear a little bit more. Okay, all right, so we've got those pieces. And then we're going to go with our soft suede and our blending brush and just kind of go over and again try not to be, oop, did exactly what I said not to do. And got blobs, so there you go. There you know what a blob looks like now. So let's see. And you just want to make some of it be a lot darker. All right, and let's move to the other piece and do the same on it. And we'll go back over just the edges in a minute. These blending brushes are just awesome. I so love them. There's so many, so useful. So lots of things you can do with them. Okay. All right, so there we've got that, and it looks roughed up and aged a little. And then we're going to take the dauber and make it even darker on some of the edges there. And I'm just kind of taking it. It's a lot easier for me to pick it up than to do it on the ground, or on the table. So, okay. And that just really adds something to it. And again, I'm just using the soft suede. You can do different colors. You can make it, you can probably use crumb cake and even some early espresso, but this worked really well, I think. So there is that. Those are roughed up nicely. And I already I didn't say, but I already roughed this up just a little bit after I colored it. I also just kind of gave it a little bit so that the very vanilla was not super bright. So, okay, so we have these pieces and the flowers. All right, now let's get to the designer series Vellum. All right, and they do have words on them, and we're going to rough it up the same way using the blending. We're not going to tear it, but we're going to just kind of make sure that it's all, there would not be, if it was an old newspaper clipping, there would not be any white left. It would all be yellowed. So we're going to make sure that we've got coverage over the whole thing, and that it's you know, colored differently. All right, I think I've got the good coverage. Now we're going to go and do the same thing with our dauber. We can even make it more. We'll try to get some of the edges. Yeah, liking that effect. Absolutely. Okay. And then again on this one, I was just swirling it around a little bit and making it look more aged. So I think you can kind of see that. It probably from your perspective looks like it's still white, but it's not. Okay, so let's move those out of the way. And I think we're ready to maybe be ready to put it together. So that's not the most time-consuming part is just aging the different pieces. So let's see what we got. Let me move our stuff out of the way. All right, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put these down. And I'm going to just sort of dry fit it, I guess, at first. So, and then something along the lines of like that. Okay, and then the flower would go right in here. And then we're going to kind of wiggle our paper around. The sentiment is going to go up there. So that's probably about what I like, I think. I'm looking at the original, and the original is a lot darker than that one as far as these pieces. So I think I'm gonna, before I adhere it all, and I'm gonna do one more thing with the newsprint stuff, but I am gonna go and make it just a touch darker because I think I like that better. So I'm gonna grab the blending brush and go over it just a little bit more. Give it just a little more color. There we go. All right, that should be better. All right. Now, the other thing I was going to do with the newspaper print stuff is I'm going to actually crinkle it. Now, it doesn't crinkle very well, and you don't want to crumple it too much, but I did like the kind of crumpled effect and give it a little bit even more dimension. So I'm going to do the same to both of these. If you crumple it too much, it's going to show like white marks and stuff. So, but anyway. All right, so then you've got, it gives it a little bit more texture. All right, I think we're done with the soft suede. I'm going to close that up, and then we're going to start gluing it together. And what I did with, even though this is vellum, I ended up just, after I decided where I wanted it, I just put a little bit of glue kind of right in the center. You're going to have other things on top of it. So I'm just put some glue in the center. And let's see, I think that one went this way. And then I'm going to let the edges still poke up. So I'm going to leave them up because we worked hard at getting it all kind of crumpled. So I'm just putting glue on in the very center. And this one I'm going to overlap over here and probably raise it up just a touch. And then I'm just going to put that glue there. And then what I did was I decided where I wanted those. And then I put glue just in one little spot. I think I'm going to cover up the little blob that I had there. Let me see. All right, and so that means I want glue just on that part. So I'm going to move this out of the way and put some glue there, and then set that back down. Okay. And then those are down, and then I can put the whole thing down. And I'm using the Tombow liquid glue, which is my go-to glue. I love just the fact that it gives you a chance to move things around. All right, and actually, you know what? Did I do that? I actually put those up on dimensionals, huh? So on the original, those are up on dimensionals, these pieces. So, but I think this works. I think it'll stay. And I did put the flower on dimensionals, and I used a combination of the little ones and the big ones. I found that this little tiny bloom right here has a tendency to want to jump off. So, and we don't want any blooms jumping off the plant. So I'm going to put all little ones, except I'm going to put one of the larger dimensionals on the larger flower. Let me pull the backs off, and we will adhere our ranunculus. Is that how you say it? And then we'll put this down. So there's our flower. Oh, it's looking great. Okay, and now we get to our sentiment. And our sentiment, we're going to stamp, and hello just seemed to fit, but some of the other ones would fit as well. And I'm going to stamp that in the early espresso. Just a touch darker than the soft suede. Now the trick will be if I can get it actually centered or not, and that could be a trick. Let's see. Oh, it'll do. It's a little bit low, but that's the nice thing about most of the cardstock and the regular inks is that you could flip it over and do it again if you want. All right, we need to, I think if you, excuse me, if you left them just like that, they're a little bit too bold. So let's actually go back to our soft suede. and see if we can give those just a little bit of age as well. Okay, just a little bit. It's just kind of a fun thing to, I think, to play. And on this one, I'm just going to kind of just dauber it a little bit, just make it a little darker, and I'm definitely going to go over the edges. It gives it some definition if you do just the edges. And that's where my poor little sponge dauber has been attacked, because I've kind of cut it, I think, with the paper. All right, I'm going to, the Hello and the Blushing Bride is going to be glued directly onto the soft suede, but I need to make a quick little cut. And to do that little indentation, the little tails or whatever, I learned to cut straight in, and then, let me go a little bit further, straight in, and then you go from the edges and meet the cut that you made when you went straight in. And then you have a great little tail or tag. I just thought that was a good look for that. Okay, let's see how that looks. Well, it looks pretty good. I think I'm going to trim off a little bit more of my Hello to make it fit better, which means I need a little bit more of that, and I need to put a little bit on the edges since I trimmed it. Now we're ready for our liquid glue. Put just a couple dots on there, and now we'll use our 2 or 3 of the mini dimensionals to lift that up. Let's see how many we should do. Let's do 3. 1, 2, and 1 in the center. 3. All right, pull the backs off of those. And it really comes together pretty quickly. Like I said, it's really just the, let's see if I've got that even. It's the aging process, but an aging process takes time. Okay, that looks pretty much like the original. There's the original. They're very, very similar. All right, I think we're ready to adhere it to the base. And let me grab my base. And I think I can move my scratch paper out of the way. Let's put liquid glue on the back of the card. And when I find when there's texture, I use a little bit more glue than I would normally use, just to be sure that it gets into all the nooks and crannies that way. All right, and there you can see if you can sort of see on the edges, you can see some of the dimension with it. So, but it's still enough that you'd be able to mail it without any difficulty, I don't think. And then, let's see, I'm missing my soft suede piece, but on the center, on the inside part, I put this, and I also put the soft suede piece, which I don't have with me, up underneath it. So imagine the soft suede, it would look a lot better. Right there, and I had already given you the dimensions, so I just did a little bit of aging on this and a little bit of stamping off for the stamps, and that would be the center where you could write your whatever you want to write for whomever you're giving the card to. So that is it. A really cool vintage card using the, I have to say it again, the Ranunculus set, Ranunculus Romance. So you could change it up, different colors or whatever, but I was particularly fond of this one. I hope you liked it. I hope that oh wait, you're right. Somebody mentioned it, didn't you? I forgot the little guys. Let's get those little guys. And I don't know if I have I don't think I have my multi-purpose tool, but these are the brushed metallic adhesive back dots, and I think there was gold and copper, and this might be brushed bronze or something, and that's let's see if I can do it with just my fingers. Maybe not. And I put a couple of those on there, and that just added even more texture, more dimension, and I liked it. Oh, now it's stuck to my finger. Yep, that multi-purpose tool is an awesome one to have. Now they look identical, I think. So thanks again for watching and joining me for this project in the treehouse. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I just hit 1,000 subscribers, so I'll do a special video soon about that. And thank you so much if you've already subscribed. And we'll have to make a new goal now that I'm at 1,000 and perhaps 10,000. You can let me know in the comments what my next goal should be. So we will see you next time in the treehouse for another project. Until then, bye-bye.